What's up everybody, this is Mike. Welcome back to another video. Today's topic is going to be frame rates. I know, frame rates is not a particularly interesting topic, but I'm sure many of you guys have been confused or interested about what is the right frame rate to choose when you're shooting with your drone. And in today's video, I will try to give you my perspective, show you how I do things and why I do them, and hopefully by the end of the video, you will have learned something new. So with the new drones that we have on the market, we have quite a lot of different frame rates to choose from. And that leads to a confusion from the people because many of them are thinking, well, should I always shoot in the highest frame rate possible? Should I shoot in 60 frames per second in 1080p? Should I shoot in 120 frames per second? Should I shoot in 24 or 30? The debate has been ongoing for quite a lot of time now, and of course, it's personal preference. It's of course a matter of what kind of footage you're looking to get, what kind of look you're trying to achieve for your footage, and who are you shooting for. If you're shooting for a project that is a commercial project, you might have some different requirements. If you're shooting for YouTube, it's you to decide what you want to shoot in. But personally, ever since I started flying my drones, I have been filming in 24 frames per second because of that cinematic look that it gives. As we all know, 24 frames per second is the industry standard for movie-like shots. 30 frames per second is kind of like the new digital standard that we are seeing everywhere. And 60 frames per second gives you that documentary look for your shots that personally I'm not a huge fan of. When it comes to higher frame rates, 120 frames per second or 240, those are specifically for slowing down your shots and need to be used only when you're planning to shoot something that is moving very quickly and you plan to slow down that footage afterwards in post. So 60, 120 and 240 frames per second to me are frames that I'm either not using at all, or I'm only using when I'm trying to capture something that is moving very quickly and I know that I'm going to slow it down afterwards. Keep in mind that in our drones, the higher the frame rate, the worse the quality. So I'm trying to stay away from those frames per second. For regular videos, I'm switching between 24 and 30 frames per second. And recently, maybe for the past month or two, I've been trying to shoot everything in 30 frames per second. Why? I will explain. So when you're shooting with your drone, of course, you're looking for a stable, smooth, nice looking footage. That's why we're buying drones that have gimbals. That's why we're buying ND filters for using the 180-degree shutter rule, so we can use the right shutter speed, the right aperture, basically the right settings for achieving this buttery smooth, nice looking footage. And I think the frames per second setting in your camera settings is the one setting that ties everything together. So when I was filming in 24 frames per second, I was doing everything right. I was using all the right settings that I know were the right ones for this particular area, but the shots were not turning out that well. And that is because of some stuttering, some jittering in the shots, mostly when I was filming not very high up. When I was closer to the ground, there was some movement on the ground. You could see that jitter on the screen, and I was really not happy about that. But for some time, I was just closing my eyes, thinking, well, that's the sacrifice you have to make when you're shooting in 24 frames per second. But then I just decided to switch to 30 to see whether I would like it more or not. And lo and behold, I did. Major shout out to John from Drone Mood for sharing this tip with me. And personally, I don't know why I've never thought of this. It's very simple, and that is just to film everything in 30 frames per second. And then afterwards, you can always go back to 24 in post, but you can never shoot in 24 and go to 30. You're losing frames, and that's why it's not a good idea. But if you're shooting in 30, you can slow down the footage a bit and make it work on a 24 frames per second timeline. In Final Cut Pro 10, it's very easy. You can simply import your 30 frames per second footage into a 24 frames per second timeline. You can go to the speed settings and select automatic speed. That will slow down the footage to 80% and basically convert it from 30 to 24 frames per second. It will give you a very smooth, nice looking footage that is going to have that film look that you are going for. But also, if you want to switch it up and use that same footage in a different project, you will be able to do it in 30 frames per second as well. So that gives you so much more flexibility, that gives you the freedom to choose how to use your footage. And I think it's very important for us as creators to have that freedom, to have that flexibility. And like I said, for some reason, I've never thought about this, but I have felt the negative aspects of filming in 24 frames per second for some type of shots that I wanted to use in a 30 frames per second timeline, and I couldn't. So that's why I would advise you to switch to 30 frames per second in your drone camera settings and just see the difference for yourself. Just shoot the same shots twice. Shoot one in 24 frames per second and shoot the same shot as close as possible in 30 frames per second. Then import it to your computer, watch both of these clips that you have recorded and see the difference. I think it's a major difference, and it gives you so much more smoothness in your shots that otherwise you are losing out on. So that's one thing that I think everyone should know about. And that's why I made this video, basically. So I know this is a sensitive topic. I know some people will be all over the comment section telling me that I'm wrong, that 24 is the best footage ever and you should always only film in 24. But personally, that's how I feel, that's what I think, and that's what I wanted to share with you. And feel free to voice your opinion in a nice, respectful manner down in the comment section below. I am really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this quick video. I just wanted to make a discussion with you and hopefully to share some knowledge with you guys. Hopefully you have learned something new today. Let me know if you did. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my future uploads, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Ciao!